This is a scratch-all. It is my all-time favorite art installing tool. I'm going to show you how to prep your tool and use it in a client's home to put anchors up for installing artwork. When you're installing artwork professionally, you have to put screws into walls to hang up artwork. For cleats, for D-rings, there's lots of different reasons. As a hard rule, no professional is going to put a screw by itself without an anchor into the wall. Use anchors in walls every time, always, unless you're in a stud. The reason I prefer using the scratch-all is because when you're hammering it in, all the material from that hole is going into the wall. It's not pulling anything out. This is why you always need a scratch-all in your bag. It's the cleanest, most professional way of putting anchors into drywall. But you can't use it right out of the package. You have to customize it, and I'm going to show you how to do that. This is what a scratch-all looks like out of the package when you buy it at the store. There's a few different versions of it, but this is sort of the most basic. And basically, it's just a piece of metal with one side that you hit and one side that out of the package is very sharp. I've been using this one for a little while, so it's a little dulled down. The problem with the scratch-all straight out of the package is that you cannot use it in a client's house. It is so loud when you hit this piece of metal with this piece of metal, it's just not going to work. So what we need to do is customize our scratch-all with a little piece of foam and a little bit of tape to make it nice and quiet so it works perfectly. For this, you're going to need your scratch-all, a piece of foam, squishy foam, some heavy-duty duct tape or something similar, and a box cutter. The first thing we're going to have to do is cut a little cube of foam that's a little bit larger than the top of the scratch-all. This is going to squish down quite a bit, but basically that's the size you're looking for. To start this next part, we're going to need 4 strips of tape. You can tear this tape this way, long ways, to get skinnier strips. Now, the hardest one is the first piece of tape you're going to put. So you're going to squish this onto the top. Put one piece of tape right across the middle. Squish it down. Stick one side. And then stick the other side. It doesn't need to look too pretty at this point because we're going to be putting a lot of tape on here. So don't worry about it. If it starts off a little ugly, it'll end up looking pretty. Next piece of tape goes across the opposite way. Next one goes on the diagonal. And I'm sort of smushing these down on the handle as I'm going. Last one goes on the second diagonal. Now at this point, I'm going to start pulling these down a little bit. Before you stick it, pull it down. So hopefully it should look something like that. Now it's very important that the piece of foam stays centered on the top of the awl. If it's off to one side, you're going to be hitting this with a hammer, and so it needs to be centered so that when you hit it, it doesn't wiggle around. The next piece of tape is going to go around the base. And so that's basically it. I'm just going to put a couple more layers on just because I'm going to be hitting this with a hammer a lot, and I want to make sure that it's nice and tough. Every time I'm putting a piece of tape, I'm putting it across the top and then pulling it down harder and harder as I go so that there's tension on the top. I want everything to be really tight. And I'm going to finish it off with one full width piece of tape going around the handle just to keep all of the other pieces in place. I'm going to pull this one really tight too. If you're doing this with a brand new scratch awl, please be very, very careful. They are really sharp. That's it. It's silenced. Custom scratch awl ready to go. So let's use it. So for the sake of example, I'm just going to make a mark on the wall the same way it would look as if I was hanging up a piece of artwork. And then I'm going to show you the process to use a scratch awl to put an anchor into the wall. We're just going to make an arbitrary mark right there. If you're using a scratch awl to put an anchor in the wall, you have to pre-drill the wall first. You want to make absolutely certain that there's not a stud or a conduit or a water pipe or anything else behind the drywall when you're doing this. My drill bit went through the drywall and into air, so there's nothing behind the drywall. It's okay to use a scratch awl. This is the anchor that we're going to be using, and you can see how far up on the scratch awl that you need to go in order to make a hole large enough to accommodate this anchor. The scratch awl goes right into the hole that you've already drilled, and you need to hold it perfectly level because you don't want your anchor to go in at an angle. When you get to the right depth, you need to wiggle the scratch awl just a little bit to get it to release, and then take it out. I'm going to drill a hole with a drill bit just to show you the difference between using a scratch awl and using a drill bit to make a hole for an anchor. When you use a drill bit, all the material comes out of the wall and makes a mess. And that's how to customize and use a scratch awl for professional art installation. If you're someone who installs a lot of artwork, I promise it's going to be a game changer. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out our other videos, and check out properplacementstudio.com. We have lots of other resources over there, and I'll see you in the next one.